In clinical theory, we connect up to heaven, and then in clinical practice, we ground down to earth. And so, after studying all of these different combinations of stems and branches, we would sit around, we'd ask our teacher, Master Sung, what's the best time to treat this if there's all these coming on and all that? And he'd say, the best time to treat the patient is when your patient has time and you have time. That's the best time to treat the patient. Basically, when the patient is on your table, that's the best time to treat your patient.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. You know those images of emperors, ministers, generals, and the other officials of state that we use to talk about Chinese medicine? I'm not sure why we do that, because if we talked about our everyday life using these archaic hierarchical terms, our friends would probably disown us for giving credence to a structure of privilege and oppression that we simply don't agree with these days. Why do we continue to talk about our medicine with terminology that we reject in our everyday life? Are we being intellectually lazy or somehow not able to take the processes of the organs and elements and see how they function in our modern way of thinking? I've been noodling on this because when I talk to patients about their liver being like a general or their heart as an emperor, mostly it doesn't quite land for them. It's like trying to read a fairy tale to a teenager. They often enough will go along in a polite way, but I feel like I lose some credibility. So I've been playing around with other ways to talk about organ function in a way that more matches up with the shared experience of our modern lives. Here are a few ideas that I've been playing with. The liver, it's Amazon.com. Traditionally, the liver is considered to be a general. How many of us say those words in clinic? The liver is like the general. But in daily life, outside of our clinical walls, many, and perhaps you as well, may have a dislike for the military and maybe even little respect for generals. Metaphors don't work well when you have a bad opinion about the character of the metaphor. So when trying to explain the way the liver can strategize and handle logistics, how with military precision it can store and move things around, well, Amazon.com, I think it fits the bill. Here in the USA, we kicked royalty out of our culture 250 years ago. Bringing up the idea of a king these days, it veers more into fairy tale than give a firm footing for the idea that there is an aspect of us that is authoritative, protective, and communicative. I have a hard time with the idea of a king who is withdrawn from the world because he can't corrupt himself with the daily lives of the people that he's supposed to be looking out for. So he has his minister attend to the daily affairs because he's busy communicating with the divine on the behalf of the people. I'm just not buying it. First, because I've yet to see a head of state behave this way. And secondly, because regardless of the game you play, it's better to have skin in the game. A king that says he's doing the work of the people without being connected to the people, somehow that just doesn't add up. I'm thinking the heart is more like a local merchant, someone who is connected to community through relationship and exchange. That business owner who seems to know everyone in the neighborhood, the one who is in serving a community also creates a community. That's what the heart seems like to me. How about you? Do you have ideas of taking the character and the function of the organs and talking about them in a way that doesn't lean on thinking like a resident of the Han Dynasty? I think it's an updated conversation that's worth having. There are plenty of ways to think about and practice acupuncture. In addition to the story of the emperor and his crew of merry men, There are the numerical aspects of yin-yang, the 3 treasures, the 4 directions, 5 faces, 6 chi, you get the idea. Then there are the more modern ways of using models of Western medicine and neurology to understand where a few needles might be helpful. Along with various models that have come down through the ages of channel theory and what that means about health and illness. In this second conversation with Rory Hiltbrand, we discuss the geometry and mathematics that comes from the Korean Donghan system. I'm not really a math guy, but Rory is, and he's a practitioner that considers an aspect of reality that I don't have access to because I don't think in mathematical terms. But when talking with him, I can grasp something of what is usually just beyond my ken. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I think that you will as well. Let's get into it. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges? Our sponsors have solutions. Are you licensed in California and want to get on the best paying insurance rolls? AccuCare has been helping acupuncturists do that for over 30 years. One of the foundations of a smooth running clinic is having a supplier that you can rely on. Blue Poppy is your trusted source, and you can get free shipping. Mayway helps you to navigate the autumn season of change with information from their podcast and newsletter and with quality herbs. Later in the show, you'll hear about how Jane's AI scribe frees you from writing clinic notes and why golden flower Chinese herbs is old-fashioned enough not to use an automated answering system. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers that our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Are you a California licensed acupuncturist who accepts insurance or wants to? Are you satisfied with your current reimbursements? You could be earning more. With the right support, joining top insurance networks such as Cigna is simple. AccuCare was started 30 years ago by acupuncturists for acupuncturists. AccuCare has already negotiated top reimbursement rates for acupuncturists. With AccuCare, you'll spend more time with patients and less time battling insurance paperwork. Email AccuCare@AccuCare.com and let them help you get in-network with Cigna and other well-paying companies. Get paid what you deserve. Email AccuCare@AccuCare.com and save $100 on your credentialing application fee. Use the code PROSPER. That discount code again, PROSPER. Contact AccuCare@AccuCare.com to get higher reimbursement rates and a credentialing company you can trust. Running a smooth, efficient clinic starts with the right supplier, and that's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles to trusted herbal formulas, Blue Poppy supports your practice with products that you can count on. That includes their Classics line, featuring over 40 of the most popular traditional Chinese medicine patents, now available in convenient capsule form. Starting October 1st, you can save 15% on the entire Classics line. Perfect for restocking your clinical essentials. Even better, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restrictions in the continental U.S. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has been a trusted partner to licensed acupuncturists, known for high-quality products and outstanding service. Visit BluePoppy.com today to see why so many practitioners rely on Blue Poppy. And don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and updates.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Mayway Herbs. Autumn is a season of change, both in terms of weather and health, and this month at Mayway, we're focused on helping you support your patients through this challenging transition. In our newsletter and in our podcast Chinese Medicine Matters, we'll feature classic formulas for wind-related conditions, highlight traditional festivals like the Mid-Autumn and Double Ninth celebrations, and share product deep dives to help you choose the best formulas for your patients during this time of year. Since 1969, Mayway Herbs has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. Our Plum Flower brand line includes pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs. And along with educational resources, articles, and videos, we're here to help you provide the very best patient care. Please visit us at mayway.com to explore more. Deep thanks, as always, for your support. And here's to cultivating healthy resilience with the wisdom of real Chinese medicine.
Rory Hiltbrand, welcome back to Geological.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, we had some fun last time. It was episode 359, Wu Yun Liu Qi, The Shape of Reality. All right, there's some light reading for you, light listening.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. And today we're here. We've had some email back and forth. You know, one of the things I enjoy about the podcast is, there's just all these different streams of conversation. One of the things I enjoy about connecting with you, it's always like really interesting, like kind of out there. Somewhere in our email, I had written down, and this may not have been in the email, but I had written down, talk to Rory about the field, like the field dynamics of being human, the field of being human. I just had it written down. I'm not sure if we're going to get into that, if our conversation today touches on that, but it's one of these things that's been like in the back of my mind, getting ready and thinking about talking to you, because I don't know. Years ago, I remember reading a cat named Rupert Sheldrake, right? Morphogenic Fields. And
Yeah.
I suspect you're familiar with him, yeah?
Oh, love him. Yeah.
Love him. And then there's like Gregory Bateson, who's like, the proto weirdo magician, Western scientist guy. He had this great phrase, this great question about what is the pattern that connects the crab to the lobster and the primrose to the orchid and all of them to me and me to you. And I hear that. And again, I remember reading that like decades ago. But to me, in a sense, this like speaks something to what Chinese medicine is.
Absolutely. Well, I'll try and riff on that a little bit. Well, definitely thinking about Rupert Sheldrake and morphogenic fields. It makes me think kind of we talked a little bit about the numerology in the last episode, which is kind of what the Yunqi is all about, is these numerics of 6 and 5 and all that. And when people hear Daoist numerology or numerics, it's really pretty nebulous. So actually, I have a quote from the Su Wen from Unschuld's translation that I can read. Those who know to speak of the beginning, they will understand the end. Those who know to speak of what is near, they will know what is far away. Hence, if the perfect numbers are known to their full extent, and if the way is followed without confusion, this is called enlightenment. I should like you, sir, to extend these numbers and put them in sequence. Let them have regular structure, and let your language be simple but not deficient. Then their transmission will last long and be interrupted at no time. Easy to use and difficult to forget, they will become the fundamental principles to act after. The essentials of the perfect numbers. I should like to hear them all. So we hear these things, but it's like, what the hell is that? What are the perfect numbers?
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, it sounds cool. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, lay it on me.
So really, when we're talking about these perfect numbers in Taoism, we're not talking about numbers in the usual sense of simple indexing or assigning a value to different metrics. What we're really talking about are these irreducible relational laws that come from underlying geometric principles. So, for instance, pi should be considered the rule of relationship between the area and radius of a circle. So at all scales, this principle holds. So you shouldn't just think of pi as 3.14159 and so on, but as this rule of relationship that holds at all scales based upon a certain geometry. And so another example would be like with different geometries, we have different rules of relationship. So phi is the golden ratio, which is the growth factor for the golden spiral. And so in Taoism...
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. 5 is...
Oh, sorry, phi, like the...
5, yeah. No, 5 is the golden mean, basically.
5 is golden mean. I was talking about like the symbol phi, like the Greek.
No. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, yeah.
Is you're saying that?
Oh, a pentagram you're talking about?
No, I'm not talking about the pentagram. Just 5. You were just talking about 5 as like part of the golden triangle. I'm sorry, golden rectangle. The way things grow logarithmically, right?
Yeah, I was talking about the golden ratio, which is phi, not the number 5.
Oh, phi.
Yeah, phi.
All right, never mind. Well, okay, so what is phi? I don't know what phi is.
So phi is this, like if you look in, like these proportions of even my hand here between the joints, and it's this growth factor that occurs at all scales within galaxies, within the Nautilus shell. It's really embedded into our physiology and our structure.
Right, you see it in like the starburst of sunflowers, and if you're taking a picture, it's like the most beautiful pictures conform to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's phi, not 5. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it ties in a little bit. Pentagram, which is 5, and it's encoded in that as well.
How's the pentagram encoded in that?
I'd have to touch up on it, but they're basically the line segment that goes across from the pentagon in the center and then the arms that branch out. The relationship is that of the lengths, or that same phi ratio. It's easier to look at if you just Google it. You can look it up and find it.
Okay. How do you spell it?
PHI.
PHI, phi. Okay.
Yeah. So in Taoism, it talks about another really nebulous thing, the round heaven and the square earth. And so we have these different geometries for these different dimensional aspects of existence. And I think we talked a little bit about that in the shape of reality. But as we were saying, life is these processes. So we have these perfect numerics, these basically mathematical principles of life itself, which repeat, or what's called in mathematics, iterate. And so the whole field of chaos theory emerges from this simple iterating of simple functions. And so when you repeat a function over and over, the result is called a fractal.
Mm-hmm.
And so a fractal is essentially a repeating pattern at different scales. And so that's why as Daoists, we're so focused on medicine, because by knowing, the near, we can know the far. By knowing, as above, so below, this whole principle emerges from this simple geometric rule of fractals, the microcosm to the macrocosm. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now back to fields. Okay. So I think we were talking a little bit about heaven and earth. And so in this case, when we talk about heaven and earth in the case of the Yun Qi, we're talking about our own heavenly energy. We should always refer back to this microcosm in order to understand the larger structure. So our own mind, our own heavenly energy is the unmanifested Qi of the universe. And then our body is the physical structure. In Unschuld's translations, he talks about the earth as being the realm of physical appearances versus Qi being the unmanifested pure Qi. So again, those numerics are 6 and 5, corresponding to 6 Qi in heaven and 5 in earth. Now, I think in our email, I had mentioned that there's a very similar analogy that shows up in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13. Krishna tells Arjuna that the body is kshetra, and kshetra translates literally to a field, to a farmer's plot of land. And so he gives this dichotomy of the body as a field as opposed to the knower of fields. And this corresponds to heaven and earth, the mind and body. And essentially what he's demonstrating is that we physically reap what we mentally sow. And so in this same way, if I have a scary thought, my adrenal glands will fire. If I'm thinking about, I'm going to have a baby coming up, my oxytocin may come up. If I worry about the baby and all that, I might produce enough gastric acid to create an ulcer. And so, it's like all of these, it's this whole process. And we talked about that too, being like a torus kind of flow. Our mind becomes grosser and grosser physical form. It's these different dimensions of pure consciousness which come from the Tao.
Now, one of the things I found interesting about Chinese medicine, at least as I think I understand it at this point, is that, absolutely for sure, as you've just mentioned, the mind can affect the body. And we've all had that experience of walking along, it's maybe dusk and there's a rope on the ground and we think snake, and the next thing you know, you're all flipped out. But it's a piece of rope or a hose. Likewise, I think it's possible that you can do things to still the body, like sitting in meditation, just like sit, stay, like a dog, right? Sit, stay. And that will help the mind to calm down as well. It seems to be a two-way street.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that gets back to that fundamental topology of the torus as well. We talked about the Taiji symbol being a two-dimensional representation of this higher dimensional torus structure. And so the torus doesn't just spiral down, it flows back up and around. So in just the way you're talking about, if I smile suddenly, and I don't have any reason to smile, suddenly there's an idea that I might be a little happy in the subconscious mind. Or even if you look at like the most core, if you're looking at that diagram, the most core part of the body would be like the nucleus of a cell. And so your DNA is predictive for different characteristics that you could have, or addictions, etc.
And likewise, the epigenetic experience in turn modifies the genetics.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love these big, juicy, yummy. I feel like a young college student late at night smoking cigarettes and, jazzing on the universe, when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's the part of me that's the practitioner. Like, how do I use this? Like, how do I make the rubber hit the road in a way that people's eyes kind of flutter, go back in their head, and they come back 20 minutes later a little bit different? Yeah, absolutely. Well, in clinical theory, we kind of connect up to heaven, and then in practice, we really ground down to earth. That's kind of our philosophy in the Dohan. So say that again one more time. That really gets my attention.
Yeah, in clinical theory, we connect up to heaven, and then in clinical practice, we ground down to earth. Yeah. And so, after studying all of these different combinations of stems and branches, we would sit around, we'd ask our teacher, Master Sung, what's the best time to treat this if there's all these coming on and all that? And he'd say, the best time to treat the patient is when your patient has time and you have time. That's the best time to treat the patient. Basically, when the patient is on your table, that's the best time to treat your patient.
I love it.
Yeah. I think the universe really appreciates practicality. So there's a lot of things, logically that sound good, but in practice, it may not be so applicable. It's almost like you don't have to wait to the bladder time to take a piss.
Right.
You can go on your own clock.
You can go on your own clock. And I love it too. Like when you're at work and the patient's there, that's a good time to work on that person.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get too in your head about this stuff. Ground down when practicing.
Yeah.
And there's also some other wisdom. The whole magic of the Yunqi is basically you don't have to follow the cycle of that year, that month, or that day. Like the energy is always there. And whatever you set your heavenly energy to, you tune your mind. And so you can, if you want to put, Jue Yin energy into a point, you can put it into the point. If you want to put Shao Yin, you set your intention and you kind of evoke it from your own self. So in the same way that there's a fire of wood element, there's a Shao Yin of Jue Yin in that sequence of time. And so it's almost like I don't need to wait till 5 o'clock to treat a kidney patient. If you zoom out, like, trust me, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a reason to have a cocktail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should do this drinking sometime.
Now, you just use the word intention, which is one of those words that like often sends off little buzzers in my mind, because I feel like I'm supposed to know exactly what that is. Because, we talk about it all the time in our trade, but it seems like different people have different ideas about it. I'm always a little confused about like, what is intention? So I'd like to get your sense of what that means and how you use it.
Sure. I mean, there's no real magic to it. It's kind of just like an idea and a visualization where the end result is built in. So there's an anemic patient, and so I'm trying to build blood. So I'll go to the kidney level of spleen 6 and its symmetrical point, the influential point of the marrow, gallbladder 39, and go to the kidney level and put in Jue Yin energy to stimulate that production of blood.
Okay. I understand all those words, but I'm not sure I follow the process.
Okay. Yeah, so this is like clinical application of the Daoist system too, is that you use, when we put energy into the point, the point's not just like an on-off switch. If we're tonifying, we choose what kind of chi that we're going to use. And so we'll have, like, if you want Jue Yin chi, you kind of set your heavenly energy to that and you connect it through your body. And so we do this Qigong in order to strengthen that connection, which is really like through our Sanjiao that we're strengthening, is how we look at it. Okay.
So there's a way that you're using your heavenly unmanifested chi. That's kind of the nature of heaven. It's unmanifest. It's almost like a stem cell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And you can kind of tune into that, and we can do that with our mental processes. I mean, we were just discussing earlier, you can think a certain way, you can have an experience of something, and it will dramatically affect your body, right? Right at the hormonal and psychoemotive level. So you're using this with some awareness, bringing a Jue Yin energy. We can talk about what that is later. So that as you work on the spleen point, just as an example, then it's connected with Jue Yin and blood as a result.
Yeah, Jue Yin, essentially that energetic of, like, you talk about Jia as like a seed budding. It's basically like that spring Jue Yin energy. So like growth stimulating movement.
Okay. So you're thinking about the heavenly stems here when you're thinking about. I'm not even thinking when I'm doing it. Okay.
So when I'm doing it, I'm really trying to connect with that feeling. You can start however it's evoked in you. If there's a memory of something where you felt it, if it's the visualization of a seed sprouting, whatever it is that feels like, you don't just want to mouth the words Jue Yin. There's one thing between, kind of getting a theory down and then adopting it to the system. And so you kind of get a feel for what Jue Yin is for you, and you kind of connect that into the needle. Or sometimes, I'll even, if I'm doing Ren 17, almost like for the heart, almost like a chakric point, if I'm using it more in consideration of the middle dantian, well, really, like, I'll think of like some of my most loving moments and evoke that in my system and really try and transmit that to the patient. and if they can really feel it. You can feel the heavenly energy coming off of someone. You don't even have to look at someone. If they come in the room and they're really pissed off, you can feel that, tension build. Yeah. And, spending time with someone who's in a great mood, it kind of wears off on you too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Thank goodness. So in a sense, I'm just imagining into this a little bit. It's a way in clinic to take experiences that we've had, positive experiences of different aspects or phases, be it fire, be it yin. I was just thinking if I wanted to work on someone's kidneys and I'm working deep in the water, I love the water and I love the ocean, like the smell of it and the feel of it, and how salt water is different than fresh water. And you can feel tides when you're in the water. So I could bring that in if I could just put myself in the water when I'm working on the water.
Absolutely. And you got some time in the boat, so you actually have experience.
I do have time in the boat.
Yeah. So you have some experience with that water. You know what I mean? That element, what it really is. It's not just, in your mind. So, setting your heavenly energy a certain way. It's not like I can just think I'm the Karate Kid and go win ADCC. You really have to have some time to develop that. So in the same way, I can look at a jujitsu sequence, for instance, and I can or even visualize one that I haven't done before, and I can apply it, but it's because I have all these years of time on the mats. I was at a seminar one time, and this pro jujitsu guy, Nathan Orchard, he said, I'm always amazed at how nerdy people are with jujitsu, and they'll talk to me about it, and I'm having difficulty even following. And this guy's world class. And so he said, when I teach the course, if someone asks me a question, I ask my body, and then it tells me the answer to what it is, that it's really ingrained in him.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR built to support you in the day-to-day work of running your business. If you're a health or wellness practitioner, you already know the care you provide starts well before your patient arrives and extends well beyond the treatment room. Jane is here to support every part of that experience. With online booking, your patients can book a time that works for them, and with features like waitlist notifications, they'll even be able to grab a last-minute opening when those pop up. It's an easy way to keep your schedule full while getting your patients the care that they need. During your appointment, Jane's AI-powered documentation feature can help you thoughtfully take notes so you can stay present with the person who's in front of you. After appointments, you can end your time together on a healing note, not a transactional one, by charging the credit card on file and rebooking before they head out the door. To learn more about how Jane can support you and your patients, head to jane.app/demo. One more thing, if you're ready to get started with Jane, use the code QIOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. So it's not just wishful thinking, it's not just visualizing. There's kind of a kinesthetic and experiential sense that has to go with it.
Yeah, I think you don't just think the chi, you feel the chi. Yeah.
We're having this conversation. Rory, this is so much fun. I just love being at the very edge of what I think I might know, or here's an idea that I hadn't considered, and God, do I even speak about it in public? It's like,
yeah.
Ooh, I'm showing my work in public, showing my ignorance in public. But as we're talking about this, and I've always been one who's been leery of intention because I haven't known how to parse it from wishful thinking. And I haven't necessarily known how to parse it from, I hope they get better so they'll come back and see me again, right? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can come into that field of thought, so to speak.
Yeah.
But as we're discussing it here today in this moment and hearing you talk about this as tapping into embodied experiences, that I don't even have to think about. It's wired in at this point. It's built in. Just kind of touching into it, dreaming into it a bit. I'm just imagining, wow, I could spend an afternoon in clinic kind of dreaming into things my body knows that relates to the Shaoyang or the Zhuoyan or the water or the dampness or the heat or whatever it is that it seems a person needs. And instead of thinking about the logistics of how things move through the 5 phases, like what if I just stand in that water? I don't know. I'm curious to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole looking at the numerics too. It's not just something that you're imagining. Like you're going through these 5 elements all the time and these 6 chi. So it's not just your intention. It's like your experience of the 5 elements. You can look at it. I often point to like emotionally, like the feeling of being spooked into anger.
Oh.
Like, even like driving, and I was driving recently and I saw this woman she started to pull into the wrong lane, like into oncoming traffic. And then she swerved and you could see how she was startled for a second. And then she got so pissed, even though there's no one to be pissed at. She started cursing and screaming. And so it's funny to just see we naturally go through these cycles. In relationships, there might be an insecurity that makes you angry, and then you express and you feel sad, and then you're processing it through these narratives. Oh, I'm a bad person. You might feel grief and walk on eggshells around them, or even the control cycle, like emotionally. You might be really resentful, and then you get a call and someone close to you has just passed, and suddenly that grief dries that anger and resentment pretty quickly. So it's not just,
it's not just an idea.
Your mind isn't in some reality that's divorced from this plane. Anything that's going on in your consciousness, there's action potentials in your nervous system that are occurring and have a correspondence and have very real, subtle but real effects. And the same way, if I think about delicious meal, I salivate. There was an article in the New York Times about a person with dissociative identity disorder, formerly multiple personality disorder. And he had like 13 personalities, and 12 of them were totally allergic to oranges. But this one guy, Timmy, just loved orange juice. And he would just slam that orange juice and have no allergic reaction to it. But if any other identity had orange juice, or if he switched into one of the other identities too soon after drinking the orange juice, there'd be a severe allergic reaction.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating.
What does that tell us about allergies?
Allergies. Yeah, I think that there's just iterating the fact that so much of our body is like this field. It's almost like this subconscious mind that kind of accommodates our style in a kind of way.
Ooh, our subconscious mind that accommodates our style. I mean, we all have a personality. We all got a style. We all got a shtick.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen, certain diseases will have certain personalities with them. Not all the time, but, much of the time, for sure.
Okay. I want to pivot just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. We should set aside like 6 hours for this. I want to pivot just a little bit. There was something you mentioned a moment ago about, I can't remember what it was specifically, but you talked about it going through the sanjiao. Maybe it was this sense that we were just talking about. You can inhabit the Zhuoyan, you can inhabit the water, whatever it is, but it has to do with a passage through the sanjiao that like potentiates it or brings it into like usefulness. Am I following that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
what's going on with the sanjiao? Because, there is no such thing. There's no such thing as a sanjiao, but there's a function called sanjiao. So sanjiao's weird.
Yeah. So this is where it's the Dohan have a little bit of a different perspective, and it can be a little controversial, but we'll go for it. The Dohan view the Sanjiao as the nervous system.
Oh, that is fascinating. Really. I've heard people talk about Sanjiao and fascia a lot. You're talking nervous system.
Yeah, that's how we view it, the nervous system. And essentially, what we'll need to talk about a little bit is the imperial and ministerial fires.
Oh, good, because you know what? And I hate to admit in public, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've been at this 25 plus years. I don't really get ministerial fire. I feel like I'm supposed to. It's like I should shake my head. Yeah, oh yeah, ministerial fire. I grok that. I come up to ministerial fire again and again and again and go, I'm not sure what this is. I know it's important. People talk about it all the time. So yeah, let's hear it.
All right, let's try it out, and you can tell me what you think of this perspective.
Okay, let's try it out.
So essentially, imperial fire is, to us, the energy of heat. So like Shaoyin is imperial fire in the classics, and it is called heat in heaven. And then Shaoyang is this other fire, this what we call psychic fire. And it has analogs like Tumo and Shakti. It's this higher dimensional consciousness. So the way that we view these within the physical body, once again, tying back to the microcosm, is we look at this Shaoyin heat as like caloric energy. There's a big difference between caloric energy and nervous system energy, neuron energy. And so caloric energy, a calorie is a unit of thermal heat. And so we call it our objective fire, imperial fire. And then Sanjiao fire, or ministerial fire, that which manages the whole kingdom in the background, kind of. And when we talk about the waterways, we're talking about conductivity through the system. Water is important for both fires. It's a good conductor of both heat and electricity. And so when we look at the Shaoyang, we're talking about this more informational kind of energy, electrical impulses, action potentials, and signals through the body. And so it's this more unmanifested consciousness. And so we get these things like the Ming Men, the gate of life, which we view as like this interdimensional nexus of earthly fire, imperial fire, which begins in contact with the ground on kidney 1, and then heavenly fire. And so that point, Du 4, is at the junction between Shen Shu and Sanjiao Shu. So we think of it as kidney Jing, basically from the adrenal glands, can stimulate the nervous system. So like, for instance, like hysterical strength. If you've seen the stories of like that, I forget the woman's name, Angela something. Her son was under a 1.5 ton Chevy working on it. It collapsed on him. She comes in, holds it up for minutes. The neighbors come. There's witnesses. She has this hysterical strength that comes from this adrenal gland stimulating the Sanjiao. So you can have this burst of Shaoyang Qi. Now, the Ming Men also works both ways, kind of like we talked about the Taurus. In a similar way, a lot of Shaoyang Qi can develop your kidney Jing. It's almost like a old car battery that's gone dehydrated. You can add distilled water, but you have to use a higher voltage to do it. So in that same way, it can kind of convert. Another thing that we talk about is we have some different point locations too. So like Sanjiao 17 it'll be more onto the surface of the jaw, like on this mandibular nerve. And so you'll see a lot of patients when someone has like adrenal fatigue, they'll have this TMJ and night grinding. Or if you see someone on a bunch of stimulants, what do? They grind their teeth. Their adrenal gland is overtaxed. So it's almost like a microsystem point connecting to that Ming Men.
Now, am I understanding this correctly, that the Ming Men can be seen as this kind of nexus and transit point from imperial to ministerial fire and back again?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we view it.
Ming Men is another one of those things that's like different people have different ideas. We know its importance. right? Gate of life, for God's sake, right? We know it's important, but different ideas, different theories. Sometimes they don't hold water. I'm starting to cotton to this. So, in a sense, the caloric fire, the imperial caloric fire, could you call that metabolism, or am I making this too simple?
Yeah, absolutely. You could look at it as objective heat that can be measured with a thermometer that is a result of like ATP Krebs cycle chemistry. And then the neuron, we get a neuron kind of heat, like Shaoyang heat, that psychic fire, which is a subjective heat, which you'll start to feel like in Tumo or deep meditation, tantric practices, or even if you've been around someone who's passing, you'll see they can get these waves of heat. And then you take their temperature, they're taking their clothes off and stuff. But the thermometer reads normal every time. Or they'll get this terminal lucidity where there's this influx of the Shaoyang qi, and it's kind of a mystery in Western medicine, but we view it as this Shaoyang heat influx, as they need a spiritual energy to kind of transition through these different gates as they're, looking at things in the room that we can't see.
So the ministerial fire runs through the sanjiao. And the sanjiao, and an expression of the sanjiao in our physical manifest body is the nervous system.
Yes, that's how we view it. The sanjiao.
That's how you view it.
As the nervous system. And so if you think about, like, we talked about that hysterical strength, like the volume of a speaker isn't determined by the size of a speaker box. It's like it's the electrical input that determines the volume of a speaker. So if you've ever seen like those videos of, a slim guy just tearing through bodybuilders and arm wrestling, it's nerve strength. And that's also something that we see, like, why does a baby have such strong grip strength? You know what I mean? So it's something we see in martial arts too. It's like kind of this saying of like, oh, striking power is a gift from God. Some people have it and some people don't. They might not have this build or frame that you would think that they can strike as hard as they do, but they can.
So this is Bruce Lee's famous, was it 2-inch punch?
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely had some sanjiao capacity.
So it's building the sanjiao. It's I just used the phrase building the sanjiao. I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, that's how we view it. Yeah.
It is? Okay. So help me. This is a cool idea. And for sure I'll have to chew on it. I suspect people listening to this are probably going, I'll have to chew on it too. In clinic, because I'm always coming down to like, how can I help people with stuff? Are there ways that I can take this idea, I'm going to call it a dynamic, and this is why one of the things I love about Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, whatever we want to call it. I mean, there really are these different perspectives. Like you can slice reality in so many different ways. And if it's, fractal enough that it'll scale, so to speak, then you can get something done with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I want to help people, how would I know what a ministerial fire problem looks like?
Well, a good one is like basically Ming Men we could talk about would be like an addiction. Basically someone's catecholamines have totally been rewired by this neurological stimulus. And so their jing is just totally offset. And so you have to recalibrate this balance between the nervous system and the hormones. So that, that includes not only the adrenal gland hormones, your epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, but also your dopamine too, coming from the neurons. There's whole way, we look at the whole, the Shaoyang channel of gallbladder channel, which we call it. You look at that channel, there's so much nervous system stress that it exhibits. If someone's going through really stressful, their hips will totally lock up. My shoulders will rise up. Gallbladder 21, we call that the shoulder well because it draws water energy from the lower dantian and converts it up into the Shaoyang qi through the Shaoyang channel. And so, the Shaoyang channel goes around the whole nervous system, and then it's involved. The kidney mu points are on the Shaoyang channel. There's a water element, the influential point of the marrow, all of that.
So the water in the kidney are intimately connected with the Shaoyang gallbladder.
Yeah,
and triple burner for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is one of the reasons why they say that the triple burner is also the pathway of the fluids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also the heart as well, both dimensions. So, the earthly fire, it's that capacitor of heat and conductor of heat. Without that water, we would burn out. We need that, marrow in order to have the conductivity.
Okay. So speaking of addictions, because it's a big thing, right? That and trauma are they're big deals. People talk about it all the time. Help me understand how you could help rewire that connection so that people aren't, it's almost like, they're short-circuiting the electrical system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Am I seeing that clearly or?
Yeah, absolutely. They've kind of overstimulated the Jing in a manner that Ming Men's become out of control. So it's been short-circuited, definitely.
And of course, we often see this in addictions. It just dries the Jing up.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So one aspect of this is helping people be okay with a quiescent Jing. Is that true?
Absolutely. Well, almost certainly if there's some addiction, there's some, emotional trauma or like a guest energy we could talk about that's influencing. In that case, we talked a little bit about this Dohan 4 gates, which I've heard you talk about on the podcast too. I was so pumped to hear you talk about it, which is gallbladder 34 and Yangling Chuan and Xiaofu heart 8. And so essentially what those are doing is they are balancing the imperial and ministerial fires, which are like our emotional and subconscious minds you could think about. It's essentially like our emotions have very much to do with our physiology and our hormones that balance basically physical structure, molecules, versus this unmanifested subconscious wired into the deeply grooved patterns in the background. So treating an addiction, we definitely use that point. It's an awesome combo. So you've been using it for how long now?
I've been using it for, a long, long time. My friend David Engstrom pointed this out to me. I'd just gotten back from China, probably 2006, I guess.
Yeah, you've been doing it way longer than I have.
I've been using.
I shouldn't be explaining this to you.
Well, I use it in part because of the way it was explained to me. I use it because I've watched it dramatically settle people on a psychoemotive level. Dramatically. And I've thought about it at times, like, are there these other 4 gates as well? Right? Because everybody knows the classic 4 gates, right? Liver 3, large intestine 4, and it's really good. On occasion, there are days where I just look at someone, it's like, you know what? You just need something simple, and this is what you need. I always double check myself whenever I use the classic 4 gates, because I worry, am I just being lazy?
Yeah.
But sometimes not.
No, not at all. We would always learn from Sung, our teacher, Master Sung. Don't try and be like this sniper shooting from 2 miles away. Get up close with a shotgun, broad range, get the job done.
Hit him with a slug.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That's not subtle.
Original 4 gates and new 4 gates, you could have a pretty great practice right there. You could have it running.
Oh my God. It reminds me of that. I can't remember which one of the Indiana Jones movies it was where the guy's coming out with this sword and he's doing the whole kata.
Yeah.
He just like looks at him and it's like, screw this, pulls out his gun and shoots him.
Yeah, exactly.
So classic. Now, one of the things that I've wondered about over time, we're going to get into the weeds with this for a second, because I really like this combination, gallbladder 34, heart 8. And you have a perspective on it because it's out of your tradition. I've just been dinking around with it as, an amateur for a few years. One of the things I notice about it that I think is very powerful as well is that they're clock opposites. And so two things. One, what aspect of clock opposite plays into this, if it does at all? And secondly, if clock opposite does play in, are there other clock opposite for Gatesy-like combinations that can be used?
Well, the first part of that question, definitely it's two different dimensional fires. You have Sanjiao beginning, the ministerial fire connecting up with heaven, and then the imperial fire is rooted to the ground. So you're between heaven and earth. Essentially, our Daoist anatomical position is like that, our hands above our head and the hands pointing in medially, not straight upward. So this
like going through security at TSA.
Yeah. Well, I guess do your hands go like this? Well,
they it's kind of like a hands up, but yeah, immediately they point toward each other.
Yeah. So in our old diagrams that we have, it's basically like Xiaofu is in symmetry with kidney 1.
Oh, okay.
Yang Chuan, right? So in the same way that Du 20 is in symmetry with Huiyin, Ren 1.
Okay.
And so symmetry is so important. I wouldn't call them like other four gates, but symmetry is incredibly important in our clinical practice. Like I talked about before, gallbladder 39 and spleen 6, Nei Guan, Wei Guan, Yangling Chuan, Yinling Chuan. I remember asking my teacher, why the hell is, why do we use Taiyang channel, Han Taiyang, to tonify lactation? Like, it seems like such a bizarre thing. Taiyang lactation. I remember asking that in school, and it was, yang becomes yin, and it was just, we could only speculate. I asked my teacher.
You weren't buying it, were you? No,
it didn't. It wasn't satisfying. And so I asked him, you've seen me treat he was treating a lot of breast cancer patients. He said, you've seen me treat so much of this. Why do I use small intestine 11 for these breast cancer patients?
Oh no. Yeah. That's a,
and I was like, I don't know. And Koreans can have a hot temper. Yeah. He's like, and he goes, it's the root of the breast, which was so satisfying to me. Oh, this simple symmetry.
The root of the breast. I'm missing this. How does this?
The behind the scapula on the shoulder blade.
Oh.
There's this symmetry. Yeah.
Oh, now I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see it. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we have these yang.
That easy? That seems like cheating. Come on.
That's how these Daoist truths should be. It's like, oh my God, if I had thought about this just 30 more seconds, or it's like you knew the whole time, but someone just pointed it out.
Mm-hmm. The elusive obvious.
But in that same way, yeah, like the whole Taiyang channel, you have your energetics, the Shu point, they're more, energetical versus the Mu points on the front are more yin related, organ related, all that.
Golden Flower Chinese Herbs is celebrating 35 years of existence. Wow, what a journey it's been. It started because the baby boom generation was frustrated with conventional medicine. In the 1970s, there was a resurgence of interest in what was considered natural healing modalities. After President Nixon's visit to China, acupuncture started to emerge from the Chinese communities into greater awareness. It was a magical moment. 2025 is the 50th anniversary of the legal practice of acupuncture in the state of California. Oh my, the awareness and access to acupuncture has grown incredibly. So much has changed since back then. But some hasn't. Like many companies, Golden Flower Chinese Herbs does a lot of business through their excellent website, but they still have real humans who answer the phones. You won't get lost in a voicemail messaging maze when you call. Like our medicine, Golden Flower Chinese Herbs is a bit old-fashioned. Visit them at gfcherbs.com or pick up the phone and give them a call. So, Rory, this turns some of how I think about physiology on its head. Okay. Imperial fire. We often hear this story. Actually, I hate this story. The story drives me crazy, so I'm super happy that you're helping me expand it a bit. We got this story about the imperial fire. It's the emperor, right? It's the imperial fire, the emperor who lives in the heart.
Yeah.
And he's too damn busy communing with heaven to deal with the rest of the body, so he's got to minister. That kind of thing just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Not to mention the idea that we talk about kings in an age where none of us want a damn king. All right, it's like we need to update our languaging and our stories. So hearing you talk about, again, unless I misunderstood you, the imperial fire is like a physical earthly metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to go completely counter to the imperial fire, which is the unmanifest of heaven coming through the heart.
Well, the heart is really a blending of both these fires. You have the electrical activity of the pumping of the heart, which is influencing the blood. And when the heart starts pumping, the king is dead, the heart's dead. You can be brain dead, but still be technically alive in that same way.
So your ministerial fire could be snuffed out.
Yeah. So the ministerial.
But your imperial fire keeps you going.
Yeah. I mean, not fully. You don't have that higher dimensional consciousness connecting through the body and animating. That's why we call it the minister in this way of like it's managing so many things behind the scenes through your autonomic nervous system.
This is so interesting hearing how you're able to very fluently go back and forth between some very fundamental Daoist medicine concepts and neurology, Krebs cycle, ATP, hormones. I'm finding it's like I'm listening to you and it's like, okay, I can buy that. I can. That doesn't not make sense in a way, right? I can entertain it. Sometimes I hear about like, oh, this is related to that, and this is here's a Chinese medicine idea, and here's the Western physiology, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't see it. I don't quite get it. But this seems, what's the word I'm searching for here? It's plausible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems plausible.
Yeah. And it's really consistent too. Sorry, am I cutting you off?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Okay. So in the same way that we talk about the spin of the heavenly energy, it talks about a wheel and it rotates, clockwise above the horizon. It moves from left to right, below, from right to left. It's talking about a clockwise rotation of a wheel, the heavenly energy. And so in our clinical practice, our needling follows that. And in the same way that an induction generator works, the spin of a magnet will induce a current through the wire. And so, I mean, the needles almost look like solenoids, kind of. So when we're pulling, when we're sedating, there's different types, but generally speaking, when we're sedating, we do counterclockwise, like in Dohan 4 gates. And then when we're tonifying, we do clockwise because we're inducing that energy forwards. We're using that spin. Or like in the pulse, that was really the most incredible thing, was watching. This is what drew me into Chinese medicine, was watching him take the pulse, and he was able to read someone's entire life by looking at this spin. So when we look at like the radial artery, it's not just a laminar wave. So it's also incorporating this spin. Like if you feel the pulse, and sometimes you feel an energy like a signature that's either medial or lateral to that wave itself, that's what we talk about as a guest energy. So it's used in our, and then if it's floating, then it's a heavenly energy. So we use this cosmology, this structure, and it's consistent within everything that we do. And Master Sung was also, he was a medically trained doctor too in Korea. So he explained so many of these things to me. I'll tell a brief anecdote of one time he was treating a patient, and at the end he said, and if you have this pain, you can take 2 Advil. And the person was like, 2 Advil? I'm trying to be a Daoist here. You're not going to give me some herb for this? And he goes, don't try and be a Daoist from thousands of years ago. To be a Daoist, all that's really required is to be entirely right now.
Oh.
And he smacked the table. And so it really struck home with me. It's like, these are timeless truths. They're not just ancient truths. These are timeless truths. And, that's why I love talking about it in physics and math. It's not that these are like the real, we don't think about this as just some theory. Like we think about these numerics as like the core underpinnings of reality, like the underlying architecture of this matrix of life.
And if you got Advil, use it where it's appropriate.
Take it. Yeah, that's true.
Right? Yeah.
Well, anything when it's appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the times change. Things are different.
Yeah.
So, again, you use the word guest energy with addiction.
With a trauma. It could be a guest energy. Yeah.
Oh, with trauma. Okay.
So guest energy, if that's another Yun Qi term, and it's basically like one of the 6 Qi. It's an energy that's not from this moment. So it's called Ke Qi, like how they say Buka Qi. Like if you say thank you in Chinese, you often say.
Right. Literally means guest.
Yeah. Don't have guest energy. Even though you feel out of place, don't have that energy around you.
Be here now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what guest energy can be. And so if it's lateral, if you're feeling it lateral, and there's more to it, but we'll start where we are. If it's lateral on the left-hand side, so if it's to the left of the pulse, then it's an energy, it's a guest energy that's coming. Versus if it's on the medial side, you'll feel it. And often you'll feel it up towards the heart. The heart's really tastes everything that's going on in the body. And so, if you feel one of those, you can ask your patient, what's been on your mind, or anything coming up? Did something happen recently? And there'll be something there.
And then if it's more medial, would that be something that's been lingering for a while?
Yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, it can be for a while, or it can be, a while is kind of a relative term.
Yeah, I guess it is. But it's something that has already happened versus something that's coming.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't belong to this moment.
Something that doesn't belong to this moment.
So like a floating pulse would be energy of that moment. And so we look at the whole Wei Qi energy of the pulse, and we read basically their emotional state in real time. So if you feel that like pounding in the liver gallbladder, they're pissed off. If it's pounding in the kidney, maybe it's like pushing into the liver and coming back. And so this is all divided. So instead of just 9 sectors, we actually divide each of the 3 into another 3, which we call head, body, tail. And then the head is the energy going into the organ or into that element. And then the body is what's processing in that element or organ. And then the tail is where it's being sent. And then so we look at the resonance between them. And then you can make it 3-dimensional with the 3 positions of the guest energy. And it becomes like a Rubik's Cube, essentially.
Yeah, that takes a little practice, huh?
Yeah, I'm not at that level of reading someone's entire life at all. I'm just sticking with the 5 elements, and occasionally if the 6 Qi is really showing itself, then
that's kind of where I hang out.
Yeah.
In part because it's not that I'm late. Maybe I am a little lazy. I only can go so far with complexity. I've got a mind that tends to like to go in the weeds and a bit more broad brushstroke. I know people that are very analytical, extremely, right? And they're incredibly detailed. And I'm just not built that way. So when I hear people talking about like Shen hammer type pulses, honestly, if I had to spend my day doing Shen hammer pulses, I'd probably go find a different job. And it's nothing against Shen hammer pulses, right? It sounds amazing, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just don't think I'm the animal for that. I'm just not built that way. So looking at manifestations of 5 phases, looking at manifestations of like 6 environmental chi, this is one of the reasons why I think I caught into the Sa'am system in the way that I have. It's more simple.
Yeah. I hear you.
And I feel like I can get reasonable clinical results without having to get too complex.
Yeah, I think I always strive to like keep the clinical practice really simple. And I'm not talking about heavenly energy. And I'm sure a lot of my patients don't even know that I'm into this stuff. You might think I just do like I'm a knuckle dragger that does like martial arts and stuff. And so people think I have a couple different hats, but yes. Clinically, it's good just to go as far as you go to where you're not wrong. And then in pursuing the theory, I think it's always great to keep pushing those boundaries, but practice isn't always the place for that, for sure.
Go to where you're not wrong and then push the edges. That seems like good advice. I like that. I want to come back to your gallbladder 34 and heart 8 for a minute. Because I've just been doing these with like neutral. Are they supposed to be dispersed or tonified, or how would I... am I missing a piece here?
Yeah, so generally we sedate there. You're still definitely going to get some benefit from just stimulating the points generally. But when we sedate the points, we're not, for instance, sedating the heart by sedating the Shaoyin channel. It's almost like if that pulse we feel in the heart on the Wei Qi level is really low and it's kind of blocked off. Often, you'll feel the stress from the liver pounding, and there's a diaphragm constriction where the diaphragm's kind of made like a great wall to protect the heart from this pathogenic stress that it's holding. And so we sedate the
southern border of the heart.
Yeah. So we sedate the Shaoyin channel, and that clears the Shaoyin qi. So it's almost like taking the air out of a pressure cooker. When the pressure is released, it can begin to boil. So it actually tonifies the heart in that way. You'll notice when you do some of those points, they'll often be like, ooh. It might even be like, fuck.
Yeah.
You can, there's, often a diaphragmatic release when you needle those points.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so generally we counterclockwise, and then sometimes we'll scrape the edge of the needle just with the pad of a finger, or if it's like a sharper heat or sharper signature that we feel like more inflammatory, you can do with the nail. It'll make like a sharper signature. You're kind of trying to resonate with what you're trying to pull out.
Yeah. Do you go kind of straight in, or do you like go against the channel? Often I know that if I want to sedate something, I'll go against the channel and spin it counterclockwise and, geekle, get it, get some chi on it.
We'll go pretty much perpendicular on gallbladder 34, but gallbladder 34, there's like a lot of these points are different locations. Like it's actually just distal to the fibular head. It's not medial in our point prescription. So it's like right between those two tendons. And when you feel it, it's like, whoa, you really hit something there. It's almost like a PC6 type of feeling. Xiaofu often will do kind of into the channel, like you were saying, and sedate outward like that.
So you sedate both of them?
Yeah, we sedate both of them.
Oh, wow. I'm just listening to you say that.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. We were talking earlier about like having a feeling or a sense of things. I just heard you say sedate both of them, and I just felt my entire system kind of go, you know, like on Star Trek when they lose power.
Yeah, that's definitely the feeling. You know, you can see the shoulders drop, all that tension in the gallbladder channel really releases. That influential point of the sinews, like all of that nervous system tension that we hold kind of relaxes. And it's by clearing the energy out. But I realized that was just the first part of an addiction. And so the other thing I would do to supplement Ming Men would be to burn moxa, which in this perspective would be using the heat, objective heat of that fire in order to create that Shaoyang qi. So that resonance is a very specific resonance that we think of almost like a note at a lower octave. And then so using a lot of Shaoyin, moxibustion, we're increasing that Shaoyang, imperial to ministerial fire. So like if you see like moxibustion scars on 36 chambers of Shaolin, it's to increase that Shaoyang qi.
So would you burn moxa on Mingmen, or would you go to no? Yes, you would.
Yeah, we'd burn it on the front, actually. No, so we'd burn it on Ren 4.
Ren 4, yeah.
Lower Dantian, yeah.
Because it's the other side of the thing.
Exactly, yeah, the symmetry there.
Right? It's like small intestine 11.
Yeah.
Right? For lactation. It's on the other side of it. Okay. Oh, man, we're just so dang holographic, aren't we?
So, yeah, tonifies the kidneys. And, yeah, I love it. Yeah. Here's another thing I thought. This is a little bit on tangent, but one of the things that I really loved about Doan Taoism, and it's that same kind of symmetry that we talked about in your Psalm lecture that I watched. And you have these climactic factors that are in opposition with each other. And so not even bringing it to 6 Chi, like when we learned the 5 elements in school, we learned that like one emotion, but in the Dohan, you learn their yin and yang aspect.
Of the emotion
of each element.
Well,
so
goodness gracious, that makes sense now that you say it.
Yeah. So like when we learned about studying the heart, we'd, do like a lecture just on like the heart pathology, heart channel treatments, all that. We were told to think about the heart really as a sadness detector. Often it's thought about as love or anything else.
Mm-hmm. And joy.
Yeah. Yeah. But really, when you have your most loving moments, most tender moments, you feel this heartbreak. You cry. Why do we cry when we're so like in love and so, in joy? When my wife told me I was pregnant, I was crying. I wasn't sad. I could feel that like sweet heartbreak. But it's because this yin and yang, they always go together. So when you realize that they're not two separate things, but two parts of one thing, then you have access to more life. And part of that's mediated how much nerve do you have, how much sanjiao heat. But really like the love that you can experience in your life is proportional to the heartbreak that you can hold. So as Daoist, if I wanted to make a love song, I would use sad tones. Sung also used to talk about a lot. He would say, you can really tell the measure of an herbalist by how they use futsa, like using poison in order to generate health. And so like a lot of these points, like if there's a heat clearing point, it's also you can use it to put heat in. Or sea of blood point, you can start bleeding or stop bleeding. So it's really, and this is with all the organs too. So like the kidneys, we talk about fear, but it's also the jur, it's our drive. It's this petrifying force, and this driving force. But they go together. You can only experience excitement if you can hold like that fear. That's the measure of it.
Yes, and the difference between excitement and fear, razor thin.
Yeah. They go together. It's not even, the torus isn't just a bridge. It collapses the space between them.
Oh my God. It's not just a bridge. It collapses the space. There you go. This is why acupuncture is so damn weird.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what you said a moment ago. You want to make a love song. Use some sad notes in it. Right? And what immediately came to mind, at least for me, like one of the greatest love songs that always gets me, Leonard Cohen, Hallelujah. Right? If you don't listen to the words, if you just listen to the sounds, it's heartbreaking. And then you listen to the lyrics and it's, heartbreaking open.
Yeah.
It's it's just heart-rendering.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the yun qi too. You talked about the difference between the tone and the content. So it's like almost like the tone is like the 6 qi, and then like the content, the words, is like the 5 elements. You could almost think about it like that. Yeah. That's really like the essence of yun qi. So like it's almost like you can have they don't have to go together. They can be totally conflicting, like Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. Like born in the, the sound really triumphant and patriotic, but the content is like hopeless.
Yeah.
End up like a dog that's been beat down too much till you spend your whole life trying to cover it up. I was born in the USA.
This is cool. Now I'm going to go and listen to some of my favorite songs and look for that, because I bet you it's in there.
Yeah. Somehow, musicians know this whole, that's what it is. The numerics is life. It's not just medicine. We apply it to medicine, but it's great to see in music. There's a reason I'm not selling out stadiums giving lectures. You know what I mean? But, if I played really great music, it's encoded in there, in real time. Or like the mental energy over time can affect the physical form, the content. So, but it's like, lightning to thunder. So it's almost like I'm thinking of Margaritaville now. Wasting away again. And so he's like really happy in the first one. And then he's like, but the chorus always changes. But I know it's no one's fault. And then the next one's like, but I think, it could be my fault. And then the next one's, but I know it's my own damn fault.
Stuff shows up everywhere if you start looking, if you know how to look.
Yeah.
Well, this is really helpful. Again, ministerial fire has been one of those, like, what the hell is that stuff? And this for sure gives me something to chew on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And seems helpful. We may have to come back again in a year and pick it up again.
Yeah. Love to.
Yeah. Anything else to say about the Xiaoyang and the Sanjiao before we wind it down? Oh, wait. Yeah, there is. Actually, I'm going to answer that question for you. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Sorry, we might be here a few more minutes.
Cool. I'm all for it. I love this stuff. So,
Okay. So Sanjiao in Xiaoyang, ministerial fire, it's like I can see it. I can get it. I'm following you. And I want to bring in the other organ that has a function but not a form, traditionally, which is the sanbao, the pericardium. How's that play in with all this?
Well, it's basically like, we kind of view it as like kind of having a form, like this Jue-yin kind of fascial muscle surrounding it that becomes like a protector. And so there's a lot of theory, some of it that I forget too, honestly. That's like from Taiyang, and then we have Jue-yin and Xiao-yin in front of that. And so it's almost like in these heavenly energies, like Jue-yin is wind.
Mm-hmm.
And so between heat and cold, a hot front and a cold front, you get wind. Or if your body gets really chilled, then you begin to shiver and it'll heat up. So it applies both to the macro system and the micro system. So if I don't have Jue-yin Qi, I can, if I don't have a purple crayon, I can use a blue crayon and a red cran and kind of like mix and match the energies. But pericardium, in the same way, like we think of it actually as having its own structure. There's a lot of like controversial things that we think of as differently. But one thing that I wanted to touch on again, that when you asked, that came up was some other, and I mean, I could go on forever about this, but like the Hsi points of the Sanjiao, the upper and lower, you have Sanjiao 10, which we call our funny bone, has this very, nervy kind of sensation to it. And then if you press on bladder 39, it has that same nervy sensation in the knee. And so, for that reason, we use bladder 39 for both incontinence and urinary retention. And so I might do like some needle moxa with incontinence, and it's incredibly effective for that.
And it's effective because, number one, it's on the bladder channel, but it's also, its resonance is a Hsi with the triple burner, which brings in this ministerial fire, I'm going to use air quotes here, nervous system aspect.
Exactly. We're thinking of it as the nerve on the bladder channel. So it strengthens the nerve which holds the bladder on that channel. And it works too.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never, I mean, we're talking about it right now.
Uh-huh.
You tonify it with moxa, like needle moxa?
Yeah. So that puts the Sanjiao heat in to that point, and then it can increase that nerve heat within the nerve on the bladder, around the bladder.
And so whether you've got incontinence or urinary retention.
Retention, we would sedate.
Retention, you would sedate. Okay.
Yeah. So often if there's like...
So incontinence, tonify, retention. So like if someone had I got a couple of patients, enlarged prostate, and sometimes they get, dribbling, urination, that kind of thing. This could help that?
It could, but physiologically they're having like a physical pressure. It's not so much as like if someone has like a UTI or like some type of heat around the bladder and inflammation of the nerve or overstimulation of like the urogenital system, then you can sedate and take that heat out, and then they can urinate normally or not have the feeling that they have to urinate. But enlarged prostate, unless you could use that point, but often we will burn Ren 4 unless they're like Chui Yin body type. So the body types determine like where the heat is kind of held in the body.
And I think of enlarged prostate as well as having an aspect of dampness and blood stasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you use heat to, Shao Yin to dry the Tai Yin dampness.
Use the heat. Could you also, okay, so I'm just thinking Sa'am-wise here, because when I think of trying to get rid of some dampness, I think of bringing in dryness. And I think about like large intestine for that.
Yeah. I mean, you can use any direction, really. It's not just like a game of rock, paper, scissors. You know what I mean? Like you can, all of these work. So like even in cooking, if I make something too sweet, of course I could add spice to it, but I could also add bitter, or I could add sour, and it would be a balancing in that kind of way. So, I mean, logically, yeah, we have our control cycles, which are, and our balancing of 6 climactic factors. But practically, if you have a wet t-shirt, definitely you want it to be dry in the area. You could use wind, but you're going to need some heat in that wind too.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's so easy to imagine there's a point to treat this or a point to treat that. And there is, but it's really helpful, maybe essential, I would say, to understand what it is that you're looking at and have some kind of clear diagnosis so that you know how to approach the dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of like jujitsu. There's so many different styles. If it works, it works. Like whatever, if you're 10th Planet or Gracie Baja, like people argue about which is the best, but if you get the result, it really works. And another little nuance of that too is like the techniques are great and everything, but the greatest jujitsu guy isn't gonna beat a polar bear. You know what I mean? So it's almost like the techniques are great, but the
polar bear is still gonna win.
Absolutely. So technique gets you a long way, but like chi and that how much intention you can throw, and like there's an actual the stuff that we talk about, chi is a real thing and it can influence the body. And so if you have enough chi, most of what you do is going to be effective too.
Well, and I'm just thinking about the polar bear. If you can jack up your ministerial fire with enough hysterical fear, maybe the polar bear better, watch out.
There you go.
All right. Well, as ever, I appreciate our conversations and your perspective. It's so fun to look through different lenses.
Yeah, it's a little different
at what we do. And just remind folks again that episode 359, Yun Chi, Wu Yun Liu Chi, we have a similar kind of conversation, and I really appreciate you coming back to chat about this. I'm sure in the future we'll be digging into more.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, if anyone out there, I love teaching this stuff. It really gets me going. And that's another thing too. A heartwarming story or like joy, Shao Yin will increase your Shao Yang Qi. It'll inspire you and motivate you. And so I just love this stuff. It's what turns me on, gets me going. So if anyone is interested in learning this stuff, if they have venues or whatever, I'm always happy to travel and teach. It's my joy. So
we will have some information on the show notes page so people can get in touch and also see what your offerings are.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Terrific. All right, Rory. Till next time then.
All right.
Well, friends, that wraps up today for our conversation with Rory. I'm struck by how our talk wandered through numbers, fields, and fractals, and yet orbited around the everyday work of sitting with a patient. Rory's thoughts on Daoist numerics and the golden ratio, how patterns repeat at every scale, all of that rings true to me. In our clinical work, how often is it that the issues that people bring to us have roots in experiences in other parts of their lives that they don't share? The idea of the body as a field, as spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, that we are like a plot of land that we sow with thoughts, emotions, intentions, fear, love, and worry. All these things ripple out into the physiology, leaving traces in the nervous system and in the hormones. There is that perspective of the earth as being in the center of the 5 phases. As Sabina Wilms likes to call it, the soil. And like a farmer pays attention to the terrain they are responsible to, so too, the attention that we give to what we are planting and cultivating, it affects what the soil produces. And then there's the practical bit I keep returning to. Theory may connect us up to heaven, but practice needs to ground us down to earth. Because while we can receive the influence and inspiration of heaven, it all unfolds here on the mud ball.